Oh, hello. Hello. Trying to decide which way I want to tackle this first. Hey Mario. It's going well. I'm just trying to decide because I have like a 30% wash here, right? 30% in terms of value. It's probably less than 30% ink in there. It's because that India ink is so potent. But I'm trying to decide if I want to do some value first and then do some heavy blacks, or go the other way. Kind of want to do the heavy blacks first to just make it more about that stark graphic design, and then see what I might punch up with the values. All India ink today. But I'm thinking I might end up scanning it and doing a full digital paint app, because I think that'd be kind of fun later, not today. Hello again. I'm having a good day so far, and I hope everyone else is too. Feel like it's always good to start in a more innocuous area, just so you can kind of warm up your brain a little bit into seeing things the way that you want. You don't risk messing up something really important. It is always easier to go darker, but because what I'm looking at is kind of the overall like real graphic design of this in a very flat sense, right? That's why I'm actually going to start with the darks, and maybe not all of them. I might just put the ones in that I'm certain about right now, and then go back and do some gray washes. Nice thing is, since it's all India ink, it's all waterproof, so I can kind of throw washes over the top and I don't have to worry about it. And I have this idea that I'll have to test out, and it probably will not show up on the camera on the live stream, but it'll probably look really cool in the original. And that's actually laying matte black over a part and then doing a normal black stripe, which will be slightly more glossy, I think. We'll see. If not, it'll just all look black, so it doesn't even matter. But I think it'll look cool. I hope. Yeah, no, I just did tap water. I wouldn't really feel the need to go so far as to do distilled water in painting. I might do that for cocktails, though. Like I'll use bottled water for ice that I know I'm going to use for cocktails. This is very dramatic music for some very chill inking. But that's okay. They're storming New Caprica right now, so, you know, it's got to be a little dramatic. Yeah, fancy ice cubes. I mean, you know, if you're going to use, like, good ingredients for cocktails, like some more high-end whiskey and stuff like that, it just makes sense to not use, you know, shitty water. Well, I'll tell you, in LA, $14 is kind of standard for like a really well-made cocktail. Maybe 12, but I feel like these days $14 is pretty normal. I have a sphere mold, an ice sphere mold, like both the ones where you just put water in it and stick in the freezer, but also the ones I have one where you stick a giant cube in it and it's the two metal parts and it just melts into this perfect sphere, and that thing's rad. Alright, we're gonna test out my matte and glossy theory. I have no idea if it'll work, and I don't think you guys will quite be able to see. But if it does work, I will try and get a good picture on to put on Instagram. Or maybe a little boomerang video. So this is the matte black. Yeah, honestly, most of the time, like, I just have Arrowhead delivered, and I'll use that. But a lot of times at my girlfriend's place, yeah, we'll just use we'll actually just use tap water for a lot of it. Luckily, South Pasadena has pretty good tap water. Not entirely sure where I want the blacks. I don't really want like super crazy blacks on her, but we can experiment a little bit. Realistically, I can just come back in with white for those lines. Sometimes that's just a better way to go. If you want cleaner lines, there's no sense trying to preserve them with the black, especially on a paper that's a little more textured. You won't get as clean a lines trying to preserve them, usually. So we'll just come back in with the white India ink at the end. Man, on this paper, both the blacks seem to be drawing about the same level of gloss. We'll see. Maybe if I layer it, it looks dope wet. Doesn't look like it'll do anything. Well, it was a cool idea. In theory. I'll just have to play that up when I paint it. That kind of stuff is fun. I always kind of have fun just getting into materials. Yeah, it's a... I don't know. It's fun to just play with the matte versus the glossy and all kinds of different textures. I'm seeing if I build up the ink, will it get a little more glossy? Because it's kind of fun when you do this stuff with like a pen. If you lay down a heavy mark, it has a slight sheen to it. So I'm thinking maybe I can do that by layering with the brush. We'll see. A shop as far as like to buy prints or originals? Is that what you're asking? By the way, I've been working on my lattes. My latte art. I'm getting there. It took a stupid amount of time just to be able to learn to pour that. Whee! Alright. I don't currently have a shop. It's on a long list of things to do. I have like such limited time to kind of do all the things that I want to do that it's you kind of have to pick and choose battles, and right now letting go of originals is not a super high priority. I don't know why. Never used to bother me. If someone wanted to buy something, cool, I'll sell it. Lately, I'm just like, no, I don't wanna. And I don't know why. It's not like I don't have a shit ton of drawings just laying around or tucked away in sketchbooks. Yeah, I just haven't found like a good way to do prints. I know there are a couple shops around Los Angeles that actually do like a print on demand kind of thing, and they do like good quality stuff. I just haven't delved too deep into it. It's not out of the question, but yeah, I just haven't quite gotten there yet. We are going to... So I have a water pen here, and it's actually filled with water. I have another one that's filled with just like an ink wash. But I figure for ease, just because I want it to start pretty black, and then I want the black to fade out here. Bring that up a little bit so we don't see it. Yeah, this is the... I mean, it curls up a little bit, but the 500 series... sorry, I think the gardeners are going to start outside with the fucking leaf blowers. But the 500 series Bristol, especially the vellum surface, it tends to hold up pretty well to water. I mean, if you wet the entire thing, obviously you buckle like crazy, but that little bit, there's some buckling, but it'll probably dry pretty flat, or at the very least I can probably flatten it out later, just press it between a couple of heavy books or something. But it might dry flat. I had all this Bristol, so I'm using it, but I probably could have gotten a pretty similar effect overall just using like hot press watercolor paper. But this stuff's a little cheaper, so I'm using this. I mean, I have some really nice sheets of Saunders. It's a St. Cuthbert's Mill. They make Saunders Waterford paper. And it's awesome watercolor paper. Debating for silhouette reasons. I might push some blacks around her. Can also do some of that with the grays, so I might hold off on a bit of it. Yeah, I agree. Cheap watercolor paper, I just think, is a complete waste of money. It doesn't help you learn the medium, I don't think, because you're battling against the paper the whole time. And so it's not a true example of what you can do. And yeah, I don't think it's worth it. You can get Arches watercolor paper. It's not cheap, but it's not super expensive. The St. Cuthbert's Mill, their stuff's a little harder to find these days in art stores. It didn't used to be that way. The Saunders was pretty standard before. But now I feel like it's all Arches and then some others, which, they're all good. They're all decent. If I need to, I'll totally use it, and I don't mind. It's just not my favorite. Because I know I'm going to want to tone her top gray. So I'm going to just throw in some blacks here to be able to kind of set that off. Yeah, you can actually find blocks. I think I got my blocks of this stuff, right? This is the Saunders. This particular one is the rough press. I'd recommend the cold press or the hot press, depending. Cold press if you want more tooth. Hot press if you want it smooth. This one's even more rough than cold press. As you can see, it's got a lot of tooth to it. So maybe a little too rough for the size, in my preference, but you can find the cold press and the hot press in the blocks, and I like it more than Arches personally, just because the watercolor doesn't dry as fast, so you have a little more time to work with it. So if you get off of Amazon, check it out. That's where I got the blocks of it. If you want single sheets, the big sheets, then you have to go elsewhere. But just debating. I want to put more blacks. I think I might just accent some lines and then throw in some gray tone. I see some. Alright, let's do some gray tones. So this is where we'll just use our India ink wash. I'd made up jars of washes, a 30%, a 50%, and an 80%, because I was doing a big commission piece earlier this year and didn't use nearly as much as I thought I would, but so now I've got all these jars of washes, which have come in handy. I have the same wash in here. I just can't control it as much with this. I love this thing if I'm, sketching out and about and I don't want to carry a jar of ink around with me, because obviously if someone knocks that over, bumps it, I'd be very sad, because a lot of shit would probably be ruined. It's India ink, and that ain't coming out. Nice thing is you can layer it if you want, and you can get that layering effect of the overlapping edges. God, I wanted that spot black. behind her head, but I'm not going to worry about it right now. Yeah, the gray is fun. It kind of adds some mid-tones, I think, for our eyes to latch onto. And what I'm going to do first is start with the more graphic shapes and then get into areas that might be more like shading. Rogue hair. But if you want a flat graphic shape, then you gotta work quick. You don't want it to dry, right? Otherwise you'll create a hard edge. So as much as you can, only stop along like an outline. You know, where you essentially can hide that edge. Honestly, it's just eyeballing. You know, you can base it if you want to throw down, like, say a 30% Copic marker somewhere and then kind of compare it next to it. I don't know if this is, like, precisely that, but I'm sure we could, let's test it out, shall we? Like I said, I was kind of just eyeballing, so there's our 30% Copic marker. That's the toner gray. And our 30% India ink wash. So it's a little warmer gray, but value-wise, pretty much identical. Look at that. Spot on. I kind of know what I'm doing. Sometimes. Good to know. I hadn't actually tested it out. I just figured because I've used those T3s so much, I know what a 30% value is, roughly. It's not easy. Like, there was a lot of like, oh, that's too dark, so pour a little bit into another jar and then add a little more water, and then maybe it got a little too light, so I add a tiny bit more ink, and yeah, it took some finagling and finessing. But man, I mean, in school we had to do these swatches with gouache where, you know, we would do that. We'd do grays that were percentages, you know, going from, do like 10 swatches, and they each had to be like an equal percentage from basically 10% gray to black. But then we also did ones where we would just barely push it, like literally 10 swatches within a, like, maybe a 20% range. So you're literally just pushing each value like 2%. And sometimes you're like, I think it's right. I don't know. Maybe. and you'd have to rely on the teacher who had a better eye for that stuff than we did, being first semester students. We hadn't quite developed that fine-tuned value sight. It's like eagle sight, but different. With this stuff, I'll kind of oscillate. I think I used to feel like I had to pick a sort of MO and stick to it, in that, if I'm going to use the grays, then am I using it purely for blocking in graphic shapes, or am I using it for shading? And I had to stick to one or the other, and now I kind of don't care. Meaning it all comes down to the graphic design, but if I feel like adding some shading in somewhere might help pop a form out in the right way, then I'll do that. And example being, I'm not sure that I'm actually going to shade, throw in a form shadow on that leg or not. I might. And I might even do more of a wet edge so that we get a soft kind of shadow there. Oops. One moment before I get too far, I'm going to clean this water out a little bit. I think in some of these areas it might be nice to get a little bit of texture going. This is one of the things I've been debating, is how textural do I want to go? Do I want to get into kind of a little bit of the worn paint look, which I'll definitely do if I end up coloring this, painting it up, but I don't know if I want to get into that too much here. I might. I know part of the glove will end up being flat black. So for now I'm just painting the whole thing gray. Then we'll pop some color out on her nails. You'll see I can kind of get a bit of layering. Just, you know, pop out a few little additional accents without going too heavy on it, which is nice. It's one of the fun things about kind of creating a wash. I mean, it just acts like watercolor, right? And you can really control your values that way. You don't have to, like, without struggling, you know? Or stressing yourself out that it might be too dark or something. What gave me the idea? I don't know what initially gave me the idea, but I just like the whole thought of, like, tough, you know, girls being feminine but also tough, right? So sometimes I just try and think of, sorry, that's my text. Minions. So I just try and think of something that's feminine, you know, that I could have them doing, and just like everyday stuff, right? Because we do have, I know, you know, anyone that's into girls, we like it when they do girly things, right? Like, and I had talked about this before, where it's not about anything being sexual or anything like that. It's just, they do girly things. It's just cute. And you don't have to hide that. You don't have to force it. So I had done that one. This was for Inktober 2014. I'd done this one. And so this is almost like part 2. Like, she's been promoted now. Instead of driving this like little rascal mech, she's like in a full-on like mega mech or something. So here she's doing the same thing, you know, painting her nails. She's checking them. She's got her little brush and the little paint bottle, and so I don't know. I like moments like that too. I like drawing little moments. I just think there's something that's we can all kind of relate to it in one way or another when it's not just this over the top action, right? And to me, those little moments say more about character than over the top action does, right? Like what she does in her downtime tells us more about who she is than what she does in the heat of battle. So I don't know. That's interesting to me. So I just have to think of like, well, what might my girlfriend do if she was just chilling? She'd do her nails. Maybe. I don't know. Putting some water down to be able to control this edge. Yeah, it's funny. I mean, over time I've discovered that I prefer kind of drawing and painting quieter, sort of everyday moments. I prefer doing that to doing really crazy stuff. But as a result, I've gotten maybe better or more aware of sort of realistic posing. So I've gotten better at doing the more action-oriented stuff too. Just because I was kind of looking at posing in maybe a little different way. In terms of just becoming more aware of what might feel real. Dab that out a little bit. Of course, then it's like, well, I did that. Now I kind of have to address everything else in a similar, at least on her, I need to have some consistency, right? Most of this is just thinking about form shadow versus cast shadow. So it's just making choices of where to have a hard shadow, where to have a soft shadow. And in some cases, like, I'm not worrying about that and I just want something a little more graphic, but trying not to make that like too glaring. Hadn't really thought about what color hair she might have, so I'm not sure if I want to go dark on that or not. I might. Knowing me, she'll just be a redhead, but we'll see. I think I'll just keep her hair kind of subtle, not overthink it. Yeah, I'm not actually gonna let. I'm not actually gonna go like heavy on color. Um, at least not on this. If I do color, I'm gonna do a couple little pops of color, but as a graphic design element, not to like paint in color. But I know I keep looking at that napkin and I'm like, ooh, that's kind of nice. It's real pretty. Right now I'm more interested in where I can pop shapes out. I know it's a little different way to work, right? Because it's only halfway based in any kind of physics, right? Color physics or light physics. But I don't know, when it comes down to interesting image making, I feel like sometimes it helps to throw some of that out the door. Sometimes, not always. And certain things you don't want to go too far with it, but I think to a degree we can get away with it. And I could also break out my darker washes if I really wanted to kind of emphasize some of that stuff, but I don't know. I don't want it to get too dark. Some of these pads, though, I do want to get a little darker on. Yeah, that was basically when I was just doing the swatches of these inks, just so I could see, like, okay, what do these actually look like on paper? So that was just dabbing it off the brush. Got that interesting kaleidoscope of colors. It's kind of fun. And I'm totally not sure how I want to approach the entire mech, which is why I'm kind of more focused on her right now. But I feel like I should probably address it. Because then I think I'll see where I want areas on her to maybe get a little darker. But I think for that, because that's a lot more space, switch to a little bigger brush. I've been using just the Winsor Newton Series 7 number 1, so I'm going to switch to a number 2, which is significantly bigger. This one's labeled number 2, but I swear it looks almost the same as my number 3. Right? I mean, like, I swear they just accidentally put a number 2 on a or a number 3 on a 2 handle, because I'm really not seeing much of a difference. Yeah, I mean, the mech, honestly, like, I might go the opposite route, right? Where I have the mech mostly gray with some highlights. But what I might also do is address the big cannon first, make that all darker, and then do the, like, the tone on the mech might end up being really organic. Just watered down wash. So but at this point it is important for me to, like, preserve some lights. Yeah, the Da Vinci brushes are great. I have a couple of those as well. I don't know. I still love the Winsor Newton Series 7. I just always kind of come back to it. I think just because I've been using the Series 7 for a long time, I just so used to how it works. I'll decide if I want to darken or lighten somewhere there. Want to get some little bit of organicness in the metal, kind of. And again, I know I can layer this stuff to get it a little darker or lighter depending on what I want. Yeah, I think because I had that number 3, I've had that since school. So that was kind of the one that I had for a long time, and it wasn't until recently that I ended up getting more. Freaked me out. I thought the stream dropped again. Whew. Get these brushes were actually the ones that got me really into doing line work with brush and thus brush pen. I was always kind of, if I was doing inks, I was always like pen and ink. You know, it's always what I did. And then as I started getting into watercolor, and you know, that number 3 was a brush that I was using, and I would do really detailed work, and I was just like, wow, this gets such nice lines and marks, and what else can I do with it? So that I started then doing some line work with it, and of course then I discovered the Kaime brush pens, and I absolutely love those things. And I don't think they actually make sumi brushes that are as small as a brush pen brush, which is too bad. At least I haven't found any. Because I would totally get that. To like catch the reflection to see exactly where that water is. doing a full paint up of this might be a fun way to kind of get into some little bit of digital streaming too. Haven't done that in a long time. I know it's not as impressive because so many people do digital painting. But it's fun. And I tend to, honestly, I like approach it almost like an actual painting. I use some Photoshop tricks because, well, otherwise you might as well just do it traditionally, right? If you're not going to use the program to its strengths, but I still tend to do a lot of like actual kind of painting in Photoshop when I use it. Like if I want to change something, I'm like, yeah, I'll just paint it, repaint it, whatever. It's quicker. This guy. And one of the nice things about kind of laying in sort of consistent value too is you have a little more time to consider if you want any kind of lost edges, right? Like there's no reason for every shape to pop out against every other shape. So lost edges are probably one of an artist's best friends. And something that I know a lot of us would hear about in school, and for whatever reason, like even though we'd kind of know it when we saw it, it was like learning when and where and why to use them seemed to take longer than it should. Because it mostly just comes down to that artist's kind of visual vocabulary, their ability to, I should say their visual literacy, right? Their ability to kind of make these more educated, and I mean artistically educated, choices. Right? Because it can almost seem arbitrary in terms of when and where to lose edges. And it is a little bit. It just comes down to like, it just feels right. That edge feels good. So it is a bit arbitrary, which always makes things way the hell more difficult. Just getting like a little bit of kind of wear and tear on it. Some added texture. Not too much. I don't want to overdo it. It's funny, I'm basically just using this pretty much just like I would use markers. I just feel like I have so much more control over the type of edges, you know? With fewer tools. Markers, you can totally control your edges. You just need kind of more of them. But so this is where I'll probably keep that stuff pretty light. and let the line work do a little more of the heavy lifting in terms of the details and that kind of thing. And then come back in and I'll darken up some of her. So, how's everyone's Monday? Obviously, mine's fairly chill. Although I did do a bit of work this morning. And I did some work yesterday. And the day before that. So... I guess it makes sense that maybe my Monday can be a little bit chill. And no, I cannot say what I was working on. Well, I hope it's fun work at least, Mario. Let's see here. Big shape. Yeah, but at least once you're at university, hopefully that'll be fun, right? And Mario, that sounds awesome. That's how work should be. Nice. Little road trip. What are you going to university for? Do you have a major picked out or anything? I'm just get into darkening a few things and starting to do some little accents. Oh, nice. We do love illustration. It's such an interesting field nowadays because, I mean, it's so broad, right? The term illustration is just like, I mean, I don't even know what that encompasses anymore. There's so much to it. One of the things I love about layering the ink wash are the watermarks, those wet edges that you get. I'm a huge fan of that stuff. Yeah, man, like when I went to school for illustration, I seriously thought that was a much simpler choice than it turned out to be. Little did I know, I knew nothing. Granted, when I went, I initially was focusing on entertainment, so it was a bit more specific for me. But then over time, after freelancing a bit, I kind of found that since I was already doing entertainment work freelance, I kind of didn't want to focus on it in school. So I was like, I'm getting paid to get better at Photoshop. I don't need to pay for that. So I switched over to a painting track, still in the illustration department though, so it's still figurative, representational painting, but it gave me more elective spots to kind of customize my curriculum a lot easier. And then I would learn to oil paint and watercolor and all that stuff that I wasn't going to learn on the job. While still kind of doing some like character design classes and things like that along the way. Now I'm just choosing kind of where to darken and just so that she can pop forward a little more. And of course, like when I throw some pops of color on her, that'll help, because I don't think I'll actually throw color onto the mech right now, not for the sake of this piece. I will, obviously, because now, like, the more I do this, the more I'm like, oh, I want to paint this up in Photoshop. Like, it'll be so much fun to get into the textures and all that shit. You know, so I'll put in additional, like, kind of color details when I do that. I have, like, these thoughts that, you know, she's, like, done little doodles on her mech, maybe even in nail polish or something like that. I don't know if I put it on... I didn't. Thought maybe I'd put it on that original sketch, but I didn't. Just little tiny designs, I think, would be kind of fun. Working in Hollywood. I'm in advertising, so advertising is always cutthroat. I don't think that's ever going away. The best you can hope for is, you know, being at a good company that, you know, maybe takes care of the people that take care of it, right? So you bust your ass, you do good work for them, and they take care of you. And so that's very much the place that I'm at right now. They're very good to me, which is why I'm streaming with you guys on a Monday and not working. They're good people. I mean, I've been there since, you know, I was the 13th full-time employee there. Lucky number 13. And now we're 120, 125 people. So, you know, it's changed, it's different, it's grown. But all good. And, you know, I feel like a bit of the cutthroat aspects, not really a bit, I feel like that mostly is just due to crazy timelines, like especially in advertising. We have so little time to turn any project around that it's like, if shit goes wrong with one of them, like, you don't have the time. You just... if it's somebody's fault, then possibly maybe you have to let that person go and just move on, because, dude, you know, we don't have time to sit there and hold hands and all that stuff. You know, not as much as we would like, but there's just a reality to that, I think. That is a little unfortunate, but, you know, without some pretty massive changes in the entire industry, that's not going to go away. So, can't really whinge about it too much. You know, it is what it is. I feel like some of this white is popping too much. Um, you know, I saw something about that, or someone told me, because I think we actually did that poster. But I don't know the details of it. I don't know if it was because a particular shark was repeated. What I had heard was that someone was upset that we used a stock image of a shark. But guess what? We're not jumping into the water to get a photograph of a shark. It's not going to happen. Sorry. That's what stock images are for. So, you know, people will always find something to gripe about, and honestly, most of the time, they're coming at it from a standpoint of knowing nothing about the process. Absolutely nothing. So, you know, from our end, we have to just kind of take that stuff with a grain of salt. Sure, sometimes perspectives are a little bit off, but guess what? When an image gets pushed and pulled around, you know, and goes like 80, 90 rounds through revisions, shit might get weird. And that's just, you know, that's how it goes. You have people that have to consider, you know, multi-million-dollar ad campaigns. And so it's pretty easy to be an armchair critic in that sense, you know, and just wanting every single image to be perfect, but real life people, come on. No chickens in here, Mario. No chickens. One day, I will be drawing and I will throw in a chicken and you will be so happy. Let's throw in some color. Close up this bad boy. I find myself so partial to magenta, I just keep wanting to use it. Then I'm like, well, maybe I'll use red, but then their red is actually, it's a really cool red, so it's almost like magenta. So maybe we'll just use red, just to say, no, we didn't use the same color. I like the idea of her. Yeah, see, they call this red, man. This stuff is so magenta. That's okay. I like the idea of her matching her nails to her suit. Or her partial suit. Because, you know, she's probably not wearing all her gear. I don't think they send her into battle like this. But who knows? She's in a giant mech, so maybe. Maybe she's like, if I get tossed out of my mech, I'm screwed anyway, so no point in burdening myself with a ton of armor. It's not like body armor would withstand a shoulder-mounted howitzer, so what are you gonna do? Still probably gonna come back in and do a couple of spotted blacks, I think. Man, I really kind of want to make her top and her shorts red. Oh, that's such a big decision, but I have to. Can't take it back. Well, let's do this first. I'm gonna sit with that decision for a minute. It's so scary. It's actually kind of nice how it sits on that gray. I have no idea. I don't think that subtlety quite comes through on the stream, most likely, but it gives it a nice kind of, I don't know, a little deeper color. It's pretty red. I can dig it. No, it's so not red. But look, it says on it, red. It is so magenta. But then this one says magenta. It's just like a cooler magenta than the red, which is so not red. That's okay. I didn't actually want it. The only reason I'm using it is because it's not fully red. I didn't actually want it to be. Man, I don't know. Decisions. I mean, obviously I could easily go multicolor, but I love the graphic design of having just basically grayscale and one color. It kind of harkens back to the old duotone paintings, right? When print technology was really limited and they couldn't do 4-color printing. So you would get those old duotone paintings where it was literally black, white, and one color. And it just had such a cool look that you couldn't get away from like really interesting graphic design happening. I really like that. So that's kind of where this idea for me initially came out of in terms of this sort of coloring was just those old All duotones. I can dig it. Yeah. Just adding a little bit of water to thin some of this out. Can't forget that little guy. Dig that. I think the last thing I'm gonna do, once that, well, still want to bring in some blacks. So not the last thing I'm gonna do. Then I'll come in and do some white lines with the quill pen. Yeah, let's do some white. Make sure our nib is somewhat clean. Which it's totally not. So I'm just using another nib to scrape it off. Which I shouldn't do, because I'm using a more expensive nib to scrape off a cheaper nib. That doesn't make any sense. Good enough for government work. Seriously? Don't understand. Alright. And this is just gonna be to bring back some of the little details and areas. And maybe like create a little bit of separation here and there. Nothing too crazy. I'm not trying to go nuts on it. One day though, I will do an image where I plan on doing more white lines in it, because I do like the look of it. But I think for now, I just want to use it to kind of pop some of this stuff out. You know, sometimes it seems weird to have like a black line and then a white line, but I don't know. I like the look of that. Sometimes, not always. I don't want it everywhere. Just enough. I don't even know if that stuff is showing up for you guys. I think it probably is. I hope so. Word. Almost done. One last tiny little tiny thing for which we will not rush it, and we will go back to our wash. So I was like, oh, I could just use that water pen, but I can't control it as much. I think I'm gonna call that done for now, until I decided to paint up, or until I decide to paint up the whole thing. And as usual, let's zoom in here. And give you guys a little closer look. So that's pretty fun. She's all Dr. Martin read it out. Yeah. All right, guys, and gals, not just guys. Yeah, I think we're gonna call it. Unless I decided to come back on, but we'll see. For now, I've got other things calling my name, screaming at me to get them done. So, thank you for joining me. I will probably be back on probably Wednesday, I think. Wednesday, I'm going to try and do like midweek, something midweek. Mondays will be a regular thing. Probably Saturday afternoons. And then, yeah, hopefully like Tuesday or Wednesdays. So I will keep you posted, though. I will post a formal schedule at some point. It's going to take a little finagling. So anyway, thanks for stopping by. And I will see you on the next go-round.